No details are too detailed because art is all in the details. We always encourage them to go out and see more and see what are the opportunities there that they want to take on. It's about social health. People talk about mental health, people talk about like health, but we need social health also because I think that is healthy.
Hello and welcome to the Theatre Art Life podcast, sponsored by ClearCom. ClearCom is the leader in voice communications since 1968 in theatre and the performing arts. When the show must go on, ClearCom is there to keep the team on cue. The Theatre Art Life podcast puts the spotlight on those who create live entertainment around the world, the culture creators and the backstage masters. My name is Anna Robb.
And my name is Anna Aguilera. Today we're talking to Billy C.
Billy is an actor, singer, theatre maker and lecturer at the School of Drama at Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. He has acted in a wide range of productions on stage and screen in Hong Kong and abroad, including musical theatre, plays, experimental theatre and films. Billy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the path of you becoming an actor, singer and theatre maker. How did this all begin?
I would say it all began when I was 17, when I went to boarding school in the UK, because that was the first time I took theatre as my A-level subject, as a proper subject, and I actually get to learn about this. And I think my A-level drama teacher had a huge impact on me, and it was him that made me realize the world of theatre, and that made me want to become an actor. Yes, but then I did do a first degree in sociology first. Then I went to drama school. I went to Central School of Speech and Drama after my degree, and I stayed in London to act for 2 years. That was a very important time for me because I got to taste how it's like to work as an actor. I was in film and screen and stage, so the start I think is always very important for you to get to know how the profession is like. And back in 2009, I came back to Hong Kong. I continued working as an actor, primarily on stage. And then I also did a bit of voiceover, and I did some education, corporate training, or related to drama in a way. And 5 years ago, I got the job of being a lecturer at the School of Drama at HKAPA. So here I am.
Amazing. How was it to start getting work in the UK? Was that an easy thing for you to land work? You just sort of said, "Oh well, I started acting," but that's not an easy thing for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, that was really in a nutshell. His life.
Yeah. But fortunately, because of the system of the UK drama school, we got a lot of exposure before we graduate. So I got signed by an agent before I graduated, actually. So I landed into some jobs quite smoothly. But as an Asian actor, as a young boy back then, there were more opportunity on screen than on stage, I would say. So, but it was good experience for me. I did a lot of independent films. I did a lot of stage readings, especially for emerging East Asian playwrights, and I did some theater shows as well.
And you also studied in Russia and Austria, is that right?
Yes, I did about a month of training at the Moscow Art Theatre School, and that was part of an exchange program at the drama school I was in back then. So there were about 20 of us who went to Moscow, and yeah, my first time there, and we experienced the way the actors trained there, and I actually learned a lot in those few weeks. Yeah, it was amazing to see to actually study plays like Chekhov and directed by Russian directors, and because of their profound experience, they actually gave us a lot of deep insights in terms of acting, like everything about acting. I learned a lot from those few weeks.
Was there a couple of things that you would specifically say that you learned about being an actor from your time there?
Yeah, I remember a sentence. Our teacher said, "No details are too detailed because art is all in the details." So I always remember that. Yes, I remember we were studying The Seagull, as our learning material in our acting class, but we did not play a single line from the script because all we did was the sub scene, the scenarios that happened between scenes, and each of us need to do about 1 to 2 minutes solo, and everyone who turned up there did their thing, and we got such detailed critique in terms of if your energy level at that moment is that, then how you're going to continue like 10 minutes later. It was that detailed, and it got me to look into script in a completely different way. Yeah, so it was amazing.
That's really fascinating. So you came to Hong Kong and you started to work in Hong Kong. Can you
Yes.
describe for us what the Hong Kong theatre scene is like? And were you performing in both English and Cantonese, or were you primarily in English?
I performed in both Cantonese and English, and in fact, in my professional acting career in Hong Kong, most of the shows I performed were in Cantonese. But when I first came back in 2009, I was very fortunate that I came across an audition by Hong Kong Repertory Theatre. Back then, they were doing Scrooge the Musical, and they wanted to do two versions, one in Cantonese and one in English. So they were looking for bilingual musical theatre actors, and I went to the audition and I got the job. I remember it was we did like 20 something shows across Christmas to New Year. So basically we did two shows because shows in Cantonese, shows in English, they were like two completely different productions in terms of rehearsals and the trace of thoughts during the process. So yeah, it was my first time also in such a big scale musical production, and it was the longest run, one of the longest run I've had in Hong Kong. Because in Hong Kong, usually when you are in a show, it lasts for a week or two max. But that time, they booked a couple of weeks across Christmas and New Year, and that was a really good training for me as well as a young actor. And because of that job, it also landed me on another local musical, which was then rerunning, and rerunning in stage form and in concert, and we went on tour, and that lasts for 7 years in total.
Wow.
On and off. So I was very fortunate.
That's a long run.
Yes.
Compared to
yes.
a couple of weeks in any case.
I know, right? Because the thing about Hong Kong theatre, I think, is that once you've done a show that runs for like 1 or 2 weeks, then maybe 1 year later, if they can get the copyright again, they will re-rehearse it and maybe a change of cast. And then after 2 months, we did another week. And then next year, maybe somewhere there's a time slot that they could fit in and do another week. And then we toured in Macau, we toured to Guangzhou in mainland China, and then we did a concert version of it also in Hong Kong and abroad in different years.
I feel like you've changed, and Hong Kong has changed for what I can hear because I'm not there. So maybe Anna should be asking about this. But it's changed a lot lately. I don't know if you guys want to pitch in, and maybe Anna, you want to rephrase the question in a way that makes more sense. But how have you changed in Hong Kong, changed in these years, and how that's worked for you?
Oh, well, yes, Hong Kong has changed a lot, but I think the world has keep changing all the time. And I think theater, as well as any art form, has been adapting and finding new ways to tell stories all these years. Of course, the involvement of technology, as we all know, is quite a huge impact in performing arts. And I think since 10 years ago, before all the big changes in Hong Kong happened. Even 10 years ago, the word multidisciplinary and the media and film and stage start blending in quite a revolutionary manner. 12 years ago, if you do live streaming on stage, that was still relatively new. But nowadays, if we see that, it's just, oh, okay, it's live streaming, But it's about how you do it, how technology changed the way we perceive life, and I think theater is a mean to reflect that in an art form for storytelling. So the major change, I think, is about, I would say that is one thing that hasn't been changed all the time, because Hong Kong people are searching for who they are and the identity of being a Hong Konger all the time, right? Because of the change of history, because of the geographical change and everything. But having that as the base, the form and the artistry is something that keeps evolving, and is something that people still want to uh, experiment about it. Yeah, so I would say, in a way, doing theater in Hong Kong is very exciting, because as a Hong Kong, we have a lot of questions to ask ourselves. So that never stop. And if we have that, things will change. The way we want to tell a story will change.
Do you think this is one of the reasons why you run so short? The running times of your plays or your mise en scène are so short. Why the live of a production?
It's a limited audience, right? The Hong Kong's only
yes,
7.5 million people, right?
It is, and that also leads to the system, because unlike Europe, we don't really have theater house just for theater per se. For example, the Hong Kong City Hall, that we've got a couple of city halls. So, this week could be for a theater show. Next week there will be a graduation ceremony for a school, and the next week will be, I don't know, maybe a concert or something. So it's all multi-purpose. So we all share the same venue for different occasions, instead of, a theater house keep running theater programs all the time. Of course, there are venue partnerships between a performance venue and theater company, so they get more chance to perform in that venue. But I think it is because the flexible system, and it's kind of like first come first serve when you need to book something. So people usually plan very early on in terms of menu booking. Yeah, that I think that has a huge impact on the duration of the show that runs in Hong Kong. And of course, there are some exceptions. There are some smaller performing venues, some smaller art house that primarily do performing arts only.
You're you and then you transition to working for HKAPA, which in the region is very well known. What was your reason for going there, and what was your like to, instead of acting, teaching it, and what was that like for you?
It was a huge change for me, because I did not expect I would be teaching full time instead of acting. When I was 33, 34 years old, that's like 5, 6 years back, I was asked if I wanted to teach part time at the School of Drama for voice. So I thought, oh yes, why not? Because I've been doing musical theater, I've been doing voiceover. Voice is something that I've been studying and working on, and I have passion with. And I said yes. I took up the challenge, and I enjoy sharing the knowledge with the students. But then a full-time position came up, and when I saw that, there were two sides. I was juggling between. One part of me thought, oh, this is such a great opportunity for me to try something new, and that would be a good challenge to teach full time. But at the same time, as a 34-year-old actor, I felt like my career had just begun. And in fact, for many guys, in their acting career, it wasn't until late 30s or early 40s they start blooming. And the reason I eventually tried to go for the interview was because acting, there will be many opportunities. I've been in the field for 10 years or so, and there are school holidays, so I can still act, but such opportunity didn't come up very often. So I decided to give it a try to go for the interview, and I got the job. Yeah, and also being a lecturer at 34, it was quite. I was relatively young. I mean, for being a lecturer in the acting scene, because all my colleagues they have been very successful theater artists for 20-year plus, most of them. So I also got to learn a lot from my colleagues as well. So I have no regret taking that job, and that's why I'm still there now. Yeah.
And do you still act and sing
Uh,
and do all things?
Yes, trying my best to. During COVID times, I did some live streaming gigs, and that's the most we could handle. And as for acting, since things are coming back now, and I'm actually quite looking forward to get involved into a theater production or a film production again if there's a chance and if my time is available.
Yeah, I mean, we've only just lost the masks, Anna, so it's
Yes,
been 3
yes.
years. So now we can actually see what people are acting. So,
Hmm.
and with with your students, like if we go behind the curtain of the
Hmm.
education and stuff, is the goal to prepare them for the international market, the Hong Kong market? Like, what's the sort of premise of preparation for the students there?
I would say we prepare them for whichever whichever path they would like to go for. In HKAPA, our students act in Cantonese, but the background of our students are very diverse. Some of them came from international schools, some of them studied abroad before, some of them got their first degree in Hong Kong or abroad before they attend their full-time training. We do not limit them to perform in Cantonese only, even though the learning language is primarily in Cantonese. But they are very well exposed to what's happening in the world. For example, in 2019, I took some of our students to Texas Tech University for a month theater and cultural exchange. And I was there as one of the guest artists to run workshops alongside with other theater artists in the state. So our students got the chance to go abroad and see more of the world in a sense. And our school, when people could travel, usually every year we had study trip abroad. We've been to Korea, we've been to Austria, we've been to London, all sorts of places. So we would like them to. We always encourage them to go out and see more and see what are the opportunities there that they want to take on.
And now a note from our sponsor. The Theatre Out Live podcast is proud to be sponsored by ClearCom. ClearCom is the leader in voice communications since 1968 for theatre and the performing arts. When the show must go on, ClearCom is there to keep the team on cue. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out. And in terms of, the kind of plays or productions that you would do, are they Cantonese plays or from its core, or are they adapted from English and translated to Cantonese, or is there sometimes you get some stuff that was Mandarin that's moved into because it's Cantonese is relatively a small language in the global scheme of things compared to, say, Mandarin. And so is there a lot of content that is at the core Cantonese in writing?
Yes, and in Hong Kong, I think the exciting thing about the theater scene in Hong Kong is the mix of culture. And since I was born, my east and west side has been in hybrid mode all the time. For example, in Hong Kong, I was in the History Boys, the famous British plays, the History Boys, but I acted in Cantonese. I was in A Chorus Line, the musical, but sang and acted in Cantonese. I actually played a lot of European role in Cantonese theatre. in Hong Kong theater, translated from the shows in a different language. But we also have a lot of local play. For example, HKAPA is like the main hub in training local theater playwrights, and there are lots of device piece, and they could be bilingual, they could be like physical theater driven, and even at school, there we had theater production and music productions where they act their lines in Cantonese but sang all the songs in English. And there's some cabaret that were in mixed language. And there were 5 continuous years. I did a cabaret with my friends at the Hong Kong Fringe Club. That was primarily in English, but we mixed in Cantonese, and then also sometimes we mixed in songs in Cantonese, German, French. I think it's a celebration of all cultures, really. But yes, primarily because of the population, we perform in Cantonese. But from my experience, the Hong Kong audience they embrace English in what they see from performances very well.
Is there ever been ones that have been written in Cantonese as a core play, but then translated to English for performance? Because that, as an English-speaking person who cannot speak Cantonese, it would be fascinating to see Cantonese playwrights and their content in English. But I don't know if that happens often. Does it happen often?
It had happened, but it hasn't. It doesn't happen often. But I hope it will happen more often. I think because unfortunately, I haven't been in any Cantonese play performed in English, but I know we've got some famous theatre playwrights like Candice Zhong and a couple of others. You know, they for example, they write a new play for the Hong Kong Arts Festival, and it was translated into English. And I know that there was a student who studied in Central School of Speech and Drama, my alma mater, but he went there a couple of years after me, and they suggested the school library to purchase the Hong Kong play that was translated in English. So these plays in English are in the school's library, which I think is pretty amazing.
That's super cool.
Yes, but unfortunately, they are not available on the bookshelf in many bookstores, unfortunately, yet. But I hope this will happen soon.
Yeah, hopefully the digital era helps with that.
Definitely, yes. And about the digital era, there was a period of time we kept watching theater on screen in front of our computer. So, because all the theater house want to, do the digital version and show the world the digital version of their shows. And I think even though that sitting in front of your laptop watching theater could be a bit much if you watch it continually for 2 years, but also that was a good exposure for people from all around the world to see how other countries do their theater. So I think it was a great opportunity, great exposure as well.
So you get a few years of master classes there.
Yes.
This actually kind of helps me get into the question I wanted to get. So I hear like your theater scene is very local, focus on Cantonese people and Hong Kongese people. And now that the city is opening back to tourism, is that something that's a goal or would be an interest of do you see the theater in Hong Kong being open for maybe expats or the tourists that visit it, or that you rather keep it as something local, that it's brewing and talking about the local issues for local people?
That is a very good question, because I believe if you want to go international, you have to go more local. So people would come and would like to come and see what you are doing locally as Hong Konger, as Hong Kong theater. And that is the direction the Hong Kong theater scene is going. last year there was a huge theater production. It was a musical, original local Hong Kong musical production. I can't remember the English name of it. Sorry, but it has got some really good Chinese elements in it, and they produce it in a way that we all think could go international. And I think with the establishment of the West Kowloon and in collaboration with some big theater companies in Hong Kong, we are trying to do some big scale show, which we hope can run for a long time. Hopefully, with good reputation, people from abroad could also come to Hong Kong and see those shows. And those shows were so well made. And strangely enough, I think we need to thank COVID because those shows were supposed to perform 3 years ago. And I've seen two big scale theater production last year because of COVID. They postponed it for 3 years, but with the nurture of 3 years, the standard became so high. And when I saw that, I just thought this is Broadway, this is West End standard with the local Hong Kong theater aesthetics in it. So I think people start to realize in Hong Kong, because we're so busy, we do one thing and then we forget about it and then we chase for the next one. So I think this is a good lesson for Hong Kong cultural scene, especially for people who are in power to plan the cultural policy, that we need R&D, we need research and development. Because if you see a theater show, people actually can spend 3 years to nurture, and they do reading, they do previews, and then they took time and rehearse and revise the script. Things could turn out in such a high standard. Yeah, I think we are going towards an understanding that theater and all performing art piece, good art piece, takes time to develop. And there were proving evidence that we can do really high standard shows if time and money are allowed.
It's such a good point, because a lot of the times when people are budgeting a show, they're trying to do it as efficiently as possible. And one of the hard things about doing that is to quantify the creative time that it takes to develop something great. And I would say, in a similar experience to yours with this show that you speak of, the same thing exactly happened with the House of Dancing Water in Macau, which is one of the shows that I helped build here. We had originally a 4 to 5 month sort of training and formation period that was extended because the building wasn't ready, and we actually ended up spending a year in Belgium instead of 6 months. And I think the consequences of that extra time built an artillery of content that was able to be assembled together really well in Macau and create the success that it was and hopefully is again. But and I credit that time, and it's such a hard thing to argue for because it costs money, right? Time to develop something costs money, but we've got to continue to fight for it because that's where you get these amazing pieces of work if you've got the time to work on it.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And on top of that, people don't realize usually their proper performance is actually their preview. But after preview and done, move on. But and that's why I was in a show that was running for 7 years continuously. I mean, thankfully, because the music was so good, it got such a big review, such a big noise, so people wanted more. But I could see the theater production every year. There was no guarantee, even though they really want to rerun it, because they have to start from scratch again, and it's a struggle to just fit another week in another year. So, but if there's a longer plan, longer scheme that we could plan on, primarily R&D first, and if we put on the opening of the show, we see as a review, and then there will be, I think, mentally people and the creative team would have much more space to develop it further, I think. Yeah, it's about the system, isn't it?
Totally.
What would you say is your favorite thing about your job?
My favorite thing about my job is that I can keep thinking and knowing and learning about being a human, about being a person, because whether I'm acting, whether I'm teaching, or whether I am even like doing corporate training, it gives me chances to get into investment bank, for example, when I did corporate training, which is a great opportunity for me to see different parts of the world. And when you work in a sound studio for voiceover, when you work in a secondary school to teach drama for their extracurricular activities, or when you teach at a drama school, or when you go on a big stage, or if you go to a fringe theater venue doing experimental theater, it's the people you meet and the crowd you meet are always different. And because now as a teacher, I've got to share my views to my students, that actually got me to think a lot deeper on what culture is, what society, what life is about. Interestingly, when I was a young actor, sometimes I think, oh, how I act is my own business. I've got my own way, I've got my own method. You don't need to know. As long as I do my job, I've done my job, and I share the good time with the cast on stage, and done. But at school, as a teacher now, I need to share what I think about acting, what I think about voice, and I have to articulate myself. So I'm always reinterrogating myself in terms of what I know, and if that's true, of what I'm thinking, and yeah, and the conversation I have with my colleagues constantly about art, about theater, about acting is just precious. It keeps me thinking about it. It got me thinking about what a human being is. It's such a complicated creature we are. So that's a topic that I would never get bored of.
But your sociology
Yeah,
degree
yes,
hunting you back.
oh yes, definitely, definitely.
I love it.
And if you could change one thing about the job or the industry, what would that be?
Or if I could change, I would actually like to, well, if I have the ability to, if I have the resources, I would like to, I would like to build a pop theater in Hong Kong. As I said, we need research and development, but in Hong Kong, we don't have enough small venues for people to do R&D. In my ideal world, one day I would like to run a pub or bar or cafe with a little black box theater in it, so people can do R&D, or how they call it, how they used to call it in London, like sketch night, or scratch night, or scratch night or something. So people have an idea. They don't have to do a full on production. They share 15 to 20 minutes of their ideas, and then they give feedback. So people can bring in a glass of wine, watch 4 shows in one night, and then share their ideas with the artists. And yeah, that would be amazing. I think if I have the power to do something for Hong Kong theatre, I would like to, like to build a pop theater or theater cafe or something, because we haven't got that many in Hong Kong. We haven't, apart from the Hong Kong Fringe Club, I can't think of any other place. So yeah, if we can have that, that would be amazing.
I totally love that idea. I will show up if that happens.
Yes, please. And another thing, I think, back to the sociological side of it, I think in Hong Kong, artists needs a place together, because all the performance venues are government run. So people go and see a show, and then they leave. But if you look at the theater house in Europe, before the show, you can arrive early. You can eat there, or drink a glass of wine. And after the show, you can talk about the show with your friends. We need a place. It's is about social health. People talk about mental health, people talk about like health, but we need social health also, because I think that is healthy. Artists needs a place together and just talk about random things, talk about things they've seen, talk about their ideas. And in Hong Kong, we need a place like that. And of course, I understand why, because rent is so expensive in Hong Kong. But I think we need a hub for theatre artists to gather together and just talk and share.
So if anyone wants to open a little cafe or a pub in Hong Kong,
yes, contact me.
Cool, Billy.
Yes.
That's super cool. Billy, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you, and I'm sure I'm going to meet you I'm actually going to HKAPA next week to meet the stage management group. So I will be on campus there. Hopefully I can run into you. Yes. But thank you so much for your time and sharing your story and your life. It's been really exciting. I like to start my mornings like this. It's very good.
Yes, and thank you. I enjoy this interview very much too.
Thank you.
Theatre Art Life is a global media site for entertainment. Memberships start at only $38 per year. You can have unlimited access to our daily published articles, including entertainment news and the writings of active industry professionals, ensuring that you are always up to date on the global happenings in the world of entertainment. Become a part of the international entertainment community and join us now at www.theatreartlife.com.